Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube, and follow us on Apple and Spotify podcasts. All right, episode 47 here. We are lucky enough to be joined by Lewis University's head baseball coach, Coach Mike Vucsko. Coach, thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Thanks for everything that you guys do. It makes recruiting a little bit easier for sure when you watch some of these and the website and the videos and stuff and all the showcases. So thanks for everything that you guys do as well.
Yeah, Mike, thanks. I know we've talked about having you on for a little while now, so it's good to finally get you on. But I mean, we obviously go back. Like I played at Lewis. I was part of one of your first recruiting classes. I think your second one.
The first one, actually.
Oh, really? Okay. But I mean, we'll go through your history a little bit. You started at Western Illinois. Then you spent 2 years at Quincy, which is actually in the same conference, and historically one of the better programs in that conference. You coached for the Eau Claire Express in the Northwoods League, and I saw Gav threw a nugget in that there was 13 players drafted from that team with Alex Call. Do you have anything with Alex Call?
Yeah, Call was he joined the second half of the summer. And he was still in high school. Like he was a senior in high school, gonna be a freshman. He was kind of from the Wisconsin area, I believe, so he commuted every day for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and you could tell he was special right away. Like he had a couple homers and he was playing against guys who were 2, 3, 4 years older than him. And then Sam Haggerty was the other one who got to the big leagues with. I think he's with Seattle right now. But he was a West Coast guy. Those are the two guys that got to the big leagues. But there was a couple other guys that banged around the minors for a while. But yeah, that was a fun team to coach and pretty eye-opening experience. As being a young coach. I think that was only my second year coaching, but seeing all that talent and you think you see good ball, and then you're like, oh man, there's a lot of other good players out in the rest of the country from the West Coast and the South and all that stuff. So it was an eye-opening experience, but a summer that you'll never forget.
Let's move into you at Lewis, though. You spent 7 seasons as the assistant coach and even the associate head coach for the last few years of that. And then now you're going into your 5th year as the head coach. So, I mean, I've obviously been following you guys, and, I mean, you guys have been, under your helm, you've been one of the better teams, obviously, in the Midwest and in the conference, especially this past year. I mean, you had 37 wins last season, which is the most of this century for your program. I'm just going to rattle off some stats for you guys because it was a historic year. You won the GLVC in the regular season. You went 24-6. That's the first GLVC regular season championship for you guys since 2013. And then you qualified for a regional as the number 3 seed for the first time since 2013 as well. And I remember just like the regional, I mean, the guys that I played with that like were on that regional 2013 team, like they talked about it like it was the World Series. So like just having you guys get back to that, I was super happy for you guys. And then you guys rattled off 2 separate 10-game win streaks. And I vividly remember that following that throughout the season. But I mean, you had a program record of 8 players get all GLVC honors, and I think we got to start number 1 with George Bilecki. He was the first team All-Region, ABCA D2 second team All-American, but he was also drafted. When was the last draft?
JJ Fermaniac was in 2002 was the last one. He got all the way to the big leagues with the Pirates. Kind of super utility guy, playing field guy, actually, from out here. He was the last one. So I mean, it was over 20 years since the last one, and we had a couple guys get some looks. It just it never worked out. But yeah, I mean, we were super happy for him. He still comes and hits with the guys once a week. He's got some friends on the team, and he was very, very deserving of it.
Yeah, I mean, he was a cool one. I remember we were just kind of talking one time randomly, and you had mentioned, like, he told you that was his goal from the beginning.
Yeah, it was funny. I told that story when he got drafted. Like, him and Colin Amsden, both from Marist, they were both freshmen in the spring of 23, so they enrolled in the fall of 22 at Lewis. And they came to a practice after they had already committed, went to the bookstore, bought some T-shirts and hats and stuff, and then they were watching practice. And I remember sitting behind the backstop while we were scrimmaging, and George said, he asked the question, well, what's the highest draft pick in Lewis history? And I told him we had a first rounder back in the late 70s. And he goes, well, I'm gonna be the highest draft pick in Lewis history. And I'm sure he was like half joking, but I'm sure there was some seriousness there as well. And it wasn't the first round, but he was a draft pick, and it was kind of a cool full circle moment there. That 4 years later it did come true, and you could kind of tell right away, like there was a chance. Like I remember in 2023 we had a couple scouts come out, a pitcher, Jake Caraba from Neuqua Valley. They came out to watch him, and they asked if we had anyone else, and I had said he's a couple years away and he's got some developing to do, but he's another one to keep an eye on just because of the body, 6'2", 6'3", and he was skinny at the time, 180, 185, and now he's probably right around 220 and just looks like a big leaguer. And that stuff matters to those guys for sure.
But moving down the list, you guys had a ton of contributors, but Mikey Kosin, arguably the biggest contributor for you guys. He won GLVC Player of the Year. Do you know the last time you guys had that, or if ever?
I believe it was 1999. Jake Johnson won Player of the Year. He won Freshman of the Year in 98, and I think he won Player of the Year in 99 as a sophomore. So pretty crazy stuff, Caraba won Pitcher of the Year in 23, but so.
Yeah, sorry, putting you on the spot for a lot of years and name polls and stuff, but.
Yeah, Lewis baseball trivia here, yeah.
Well, Kosin is an interesting one for me, Mike. I remember watching him as a sophomore in high school for Warren. What was his story to get to you guys? He hit over 400. I was looking at the numbers. Bolecki had crazy numbers. Kosin had crazy numbers. More walks than strikeouts, hit for power. When I saw him in high school, it was more of a gap-to-gap guy. He'd maybe have some sneaky juice to the pull side. But what was his story in getting to you guys, and where'd you get him from, and what position was he playing?
Yeah, I remember asking him so he went to Triton out of Warren for 2 years, played for Harry Torgerson over there. They ran a good program when Harry was there. And then he went to that Puma showcase down at Grand Park, and there's scouts from all over the country there, and he had a good weekend in North Carolina. Pembroke had reached out to him. And I remember asking him, I'm like, Mike, how did you end up at Pembroke? From Warren to Triton to Pembroke. That's just an odd place. He goes, I had a good weekend, felt like I was going to have a good season, but the next 2 weekends of fall ball, he struggled a little bit. Every player goes through a rough weekend or two. And he's like, no one had called me for a couple of weeks, so I just kind of took the offer just to make sure I had a school. And went to Pembroke. He played a little bit. Numbers weren't great, but he was still playing. For whatever reason, just didn't like the university. I think the far away from home kind of got to him a little bit, with that being a 12, 13-hour car ride, and wanted just a change of scenery for his last 2 years. And I saw that he played. We had a kid, Drew Jasnach, who went to high school with him, who was on the team, and he had actually originally texted me about him, that he was going to go into the portal. So, we reached out to him. I saw that he played a lot for, a really good team in Pembroke. And I remembered a little bit from high school, but it was 5 years ago, and guys could take steps forward, guys could say the same. So you don't really know what you're getting because, it was 4 years ago. Had him on a visit, and he liked it, and that was kind of that. And, I hadn't even seen him play. I just kind of took Coach Torgerson's recommendation and saw that he played on a good team. And then, he was buddies with a couple guys on the team. And I'm like, all right, this could probably work. Saw some video of him. And then the first time I saw him swing, though, I'm like, oh, this kid's going to be he's a stud. Absolute stud. I wasn't predicting he was going to be a career 400 hitter and hit 36 homers in 2 years, but you could tell right away he was going to walk in and be one of our best players and probably an all-region player if he stayed healthy, and he did. So, yeah, he's definitely one of the Yeah, he's definitely arguably. I mean, he's probably one of the more decorated hitters in our program history, and definitely one of the best, if not the best hitter that I've coached in 5 years.
That's awesome. And Pete, you can keep going, but yeah, he was one I remember really liking the bat. Just one of those natural guys, always lived on the barrel. And to see what he did for you guys like that, I knew it was an interesting path. I wasn't totally sure the route he took, but for you guys to get him back home and to see him do what he did, I love to see that.
Yeah. The crazy thing was like when we were talking, I was like, "Who else is recruiting?" He goes, "No one." He goes, "It's either like this or I'm just gonna stop playing." And I'm like, "All right, well, I'm glad you ended up picking us instead of stop playing." So, and there were some guys that come out and see him, pro guys, and he talked about going the indie ball route. Decided it wasn't for him. So he's actually helping us coach this year. He's our graduate assistant. So it's been great for like some of the new guys, especially who followed us last year. Some of the commits, some of the freshmen on the team. Just looking at the board here. Constantine Coins from Maine South. Him and Mikey have a great relationship, and I know like it means a lot to Coins. Like, hey, this kid did it at a high level, and he's relatively the same age. So like they've connected very, very well, from a hitting perspective. And, I think it's really good for our guys. Like, okay, we got this kid who was a career 400 hitter, a two-time All-American, who hit for power, average, stole some bases. Like he did a little bit of everything. Him being able to relate to the guys and the hitters, I think it means a lot to our guys getting coached from a guy who is, such a good person, first of all, and then a good player as well.
Love that. Pete, this next guy, I don't know, at least on our list here, is a wild story as well. And I don't know if you were going to get into him next, but this one to me, when I saw the numbers he put up for you guys, I was blown away. So,
Yeah, Brendan Lowry, he won Pitcher of the Year, GLVC. I mean, you guys had the Pitcher and the Player of the Year, which I really didn't like put together until right now. So that's actually pretty nuts. But first team All Region, an honorable mention All American. So Drew, I know like we had history with him. He was at like an unsigned senior event.
It's fun. Like we put his last year's team was awesome. And we're getting close to December. We're doing our ring ceremony for winning the regular season on December 6th, and then like that's it. We're done. We're done talking about last year. It's the honeymoon phase is over. But in the meantime, like last year's team was so close. Like guys would just randomly send videos of Lowry's PBR video in the group me on how bad it actually was. And he's like, "Dude, I threw strikes. I was 80 left from the left side." And yeah, I mean, credit to him, just like the work ethic, getting better, body, all that stuff. He finally put down the bat. I think that was one of the biggest things. He always claims himself as like he was our fourth string first baseman and starting pitcher. So, but yeah, I mean,
it's wild to me because you're speaking on him, and that's what I saw. Like he was a big body lefty that came out of the pen in 2019 when I went and watched Lions Township. I think he might have like come in after Grant Leader or something like that, who ended up going to Illinois. But he was a strike thrower, and it was for how big he was. Like it was fairly clean, and he landed the breaking ball for a strike. What was his route? Because it says Wabanzi Community College in his profile. I was he even out of baseball for a little while? That might be wrong. Um,
so yes and no. So he went to Abanzi for 2 years. He had the velocity spike, and then he ended up at Eckerd College down in Florida for 2 years. So, but he was a COVID guy. So in 21, didn't count COVID, and then 22, JUCO gave the year back. So he went to Eckerd. He went to Eckerd in his third year of college as a true freshman. So he went to Eckerd for 2 years. He got his undergrad degree, graduated, and then wanted to come back home. So we had reached out to him. We had a guy on the team who knew him. We reached out to him, and he's like, "I think I have a torn UCL." And I'm like, "Okay. Like, when are you gonna know?" And he goes, "Well, I go to the doctor, a couple of weeks. I can let you know." So we kind of kept in contact, and then he's like, "All right, I got a torn UCL. I'm going to be out all next year." like, okay, well, to get you, like, I'm going to start grad school. To get you, I'll still give you some money, and if you come back healthy, we can up the scholarship the following year. And so he was with us for an entire year and just kind of rehabbed and did his throwing program and all that stuff. And you could kind of tell like it was different, right? It's a lefty throwing sinkers, um, and can land a slider. And he had all the intangibles too. Like he held runners, he fielded his position, all that stuff. And we didn't really know like it was going to be that good, as it was. He was definitely good enough to be a weekend starter and definitely good enough to be an all conference guy. But then like I think this put him out there and the confidence just snowballed. But yeah, I mean he was great, and it was like 85, 88 from the left side sinkers and just like an invisible. Like no one could hit 85, 88. Like it wasn't the velocity wasn't anything. Yeah, it wasn't anything crazy, but like it was in, out, up, down sinkers, and like the spin rate on it or the release point, like something was going on because like in the regional like he starts and like he pitched fine. He didn't have great stuff, but like when he started cruising in innings like 5 and 6, like it was like 85 sinkers and like no one could hit it. They were just swinging and missing. So it was just the slot, the sink, the spin, the arm angle. It was a lot of different things. I mean, it was funky, for sure.
Yeah, that was a name that when I saw it and I looked at the numbers, and the numbers were crazy, the amount of innings he threw, like an absolute workhorse for you guys. And those are the stories that are, because he wasn't a highly sought after prospect coming out of high school. And then here he is. It sounds like 12 years down the road, but however long down the road it was, and like to turn into what he turned into is such a cool story.
Yeah, he still has another year, so I randomly will just shoot him a text and ask him if he wants to come back. But I think he's got a job lined up right now, so yeah, he's good. 6 years was enough of college.
I mean, we've talked a lot about, last year's team, but I want to talk a little bit about your 2026 group. I mean, you guys we've said it on multiple podcasts, you're leading the state games with 8 commits from the event. Daniel Coyle, Lance Cuddy, Nick Coy, Darren Law, Mickey Lotus, Jacob Matisse, Jacob Newman, Jalen Valise. And you also have Adam Kozak, who wasn't a state gamer, but he was a senior future gamer. So, I mean, we've talked, like, this is probably your best class coming in on paper. How excited are you guys for them?
Yeah, I mean, between this class coming in, like, who will be here in the fall and the class that's here now, I mean, this is definitely, we're super excited. I mean, without putting too much pressure on them, I kind of told the freshmen who we have in the program right now, like, there's going to be an over-under on the championships won here in the next couple of years because of, like, if they all stay together with the classes. So, I mean, yeah, we're super excited. We got to go out and prove it on the field. I don't want to be a paper champion, but yeah, I mean, we're super excited. It's got a little combination of everything. Like, there's some pop here right now. There's some pop coming in. There's some athleticism. There's some strike throwing. There's some velocity. There's a lot of defense there as well. I think Coach Lotz, who handles, a good chunk of the recruiting, did a great job of identifying guys and, especially on the pitching side of things. And, me signing off on guys, obviously that's kind of the pecking order with recruiting is, he brings me guys and, I do some follow up and make some calls and go see some of these guys, as many as we can. But yeah, I mean, we couldn't be more ecstatic with the class we got coming in.
From where I sit too, like you're a Chicago area Division II at Lewis, down there in Romeoville. And I just looked, at the Illinois commitments or just commitments in general going to Lewis, and your 25 class loaded with Illinois players. Your 26 class loaded with Illinois players. To see you guys win 37 games last year with Illinois players. It's just really cool to see that it's a home base, it's a home program. Not to say you can't go out and pluck a guy by any means, but like the core of your team seems to be Illinois based. And to watch these guys, do what they did I don't know if people out there realize how good the GLVC is. and how many strong programs there are in the Midwest. And I think that's a really cool thing, just from where I sit, from a prep baseball standpoint. Seeing all these players and then seeing them go to Lewis and have the success is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's no question about it that the GLVC is the best, in the region for sure. We've sent a team to the Super Regional, ever since they started the Super Regional, which was right after COVID. So for 5 straight years, like if you play in the GLVC, you got a chance to go to the Super Regional. And there's 2 other conferences that make up our region, and since COVID, we've made up 48% of the field. So about half of the field is GLVC from COVID to now. So there's no escaping it. But yeah, I mean, there's so many good teams. I mean, 15 teams in the league. If you have a bad weekend, you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose the series. There's no cupcakes. So it's and like you said, majority of the rosters from Illinois. We do our best. With us being a Catholic university, we do our best with like the ESCC and the Chicago Catholic League. But those 2 are probably maybe the 2 best conferences in the state. So it's not to knock on any public school kids. We got our fair share of public school kids on the team as well. There's a lot of talent over there as well. But yeah, I mean, majority of the kids are Illinois kids. We do have a couple Wisconsin, Indiana kids. Last year we got a kid from California, so that was different. But he fit in perfect. So it's been I was a Marist guy. Coach Lotz was a St. Lawrence guy. So we try to do our best to stay in the Chicago Catholic League and the SCC. So it's been a fun 5 years. It's been a fun I guess 11 years overall being back at Lewis. Pete was a first one, so he was a public school guy.
I was gonna say that's one that paid off for you. Yeah, that's one public school guy that was okay. Let's get in. I mean, that's one of the questions.
Yeah, no, we've had a good run. Yeah, we've had a good run with like the Plainfields, the Downers, the Lockports, and those guys as well. So
For sure. That was one of the questions we had though for you is get us a little insight on Peter Hammett as a player, a prospect. You said he's one of your, first year recruits that you brought in. Back then, I mean, I kind of know it firsthand. Like you're trying to bring in who you think are good players, but it seemed like you bring in Pete and he had a ton of success. So what kind of pitcher was he? Did he have to develop? What did you have to work with him on? Was it a makeup thing? Was it a talent issue? Like, give us the lowdown here, because I mean, we look at the frame. He clearly probably stood out on the mound. But what kind of stuff did he have?
yeah, so I got signed on late. Like I was done with my GA at Quincy, so they wanted me back to be the assistant coach. A part-time assistant coach, and I wanted to come back to Lewis, and the guy I played for, Tim McDonough, was still the head coach at the time, so we were trying to figure out a way, but a spot ended up opening up at Lewis, so I didn't really get signed on until middle of July to be the recruiting coordinator, so I didn't see Pete early. I saw him late, and that was at the old Plainfield showcase that they used to have. I don't even think that exists anymore. Yeah. Yeah. So that's where I first saw him at. And then I want to say there was maybe a PBR event right after that. And then the Long Shots ran a showcase as well because Pete played for the Long Shots. So I saw him 3 or 4 times throughout the process. And big body, strike thrower, sinker. I was super into sinker slider guys at the time. I only wanted to recruit sinker slider guys. Learned pretty quick that you can't just everyone on the staff can't be the same pitcher. But those were the 2 things that jumped out. Was he threw pretty hard. He was 86, 88 at the time, tall, fastball, changeup. The breaking ball needed some work, and I think the biggest jump that he made, when he got to Lewis. He needed to work on the body a little bit. There's still a picture in my office. I got all the pictures, they do a promo schedule. And his senior year pictures was him as a freshman. the baby fat on the face is just hilarious. But like a year and a half later, like he looked completely different, and it was a testament to him and his family, with just the work that he put in. But a funny story about Pete, well, there's a couple ones, but I'll just limit it to one. Freshman year, we were working on the breaking ball, and like I showed him this grip, and we were just screwing around with grips, and I showed him like the spike breaking ball grip, and he throws it for an outing, and like it's fine, and it's not going to take work. His senior year, with like 3 weeks left to go in the season, he changes to the spike grip and goes out and throws like almost a no-hitter against Quincy. That week, he just decided to switch it. He goes, yeah, I switched my breaking ball grip. That's why my breaking ball was so good his senior year. Yeah, we just would have stuck with it. But no, it was great. Like the best thing about Pete was like he was tough. Like he wanted to be held accountable. Is the easiest way to put it. Like he wanted to know what he was doing wrong. You could get on him for this or that if you had to. And he could take it, and I think he was probably initially mad at me for a day or two, but I think he knew like it was coming from a place of love, and wanting to see him get better. Because it didn't. He had, you saw flashes of it as a true freshman. Like he got on the field as a true freshman, making weekend starts as a true freshman. It was definitely up and down, but you saw flashes. There was moments where I still remember like he went to Springfield. We went to Illinois Springfield, and he came in and closed the final 3 innings. And we were pretty much out of pitching at the time. We had some injuries, and it was like, all right, Pete's either we're going to win or lose with Pete on the mound. And he pretty much went 9 up, 9 down, maybe 1 base runner and got the save. So, like, there was definitely moments, but it really didn't click for him till halfway through his sophomore year. He came out his freshman or sophomore year and took it in the teeth still a little bit. And then, we had I don't know if you want to call it a heart-to-heart or just a harsh reality talk. So we moved him back to the bullpen, and it was like nails from that point on. And then we put him in the starting rotation, and it was different. I don't know. I mean, it was a journey for sure. And then, he's probably, right behind Jake Carrabba as, one of the best pitchers since 2000. In this program, just statistically, 2-time all conference, was up for pitcher of the year in the league. I think he finished first or second in the country in strikeouts to walk ratio his junior year. I think he only had 11 walks in about 70 innings all year. And, there was a couple pro guys out to see him. And then, he was fortunate enough to play indie ball over the COVID year. But yeah, it was, as far as relationships goes, I mean, that's part of the reason why you do this as a coach, right? It's just like the relationships. Like him and I still talk, not every day, not what we used to when he was here, but, we still keep in contact and talk on the phone once a month. And, it's one of the better relationships I've had, player coach, and, now we consider each other friends. But yeah, he's great.
Well, I love that. That's some stuff, and Gav, you can get in. I mean, that's some stuff I didn't totally know about him. I didn't know about the body transformation. I figured he was a strike thrower. I mean, I love to hear about the makeup too, because like the guy wants to be great at everything he does, and I love it. And he's the most trustworthy guy. Like we are super super lucky and fortunate to have him. Um, and like to watch just him continue to ascend as a scout and in his profession and how he handles the staff, it's really really cool to see. And I know he speaks super highly of you as well, and really respects and cherishes the relationship that he has with you. And then like you could just watch him swing a golf club, and you know the type of athlete he was. Like anybody out there, like that guy can create some club head speed. It is on plane. It is a consistent ball flight. Like it is super impressive. So that's what I have on him. But go ahead, Gavin. I didn't mean to steal the spotlight there.
Yeah. No, you're good. Coach, on a less serious note, but along the same lines, last night we were texting Pete in our group chat, like, hey, I want to get a scouting report from Coach on you. And Pete's response was, quote, fat put good sinker. And you basically said that exact same thing to us, but probably in a nicer way than Pete did.
Yeah, I mean that's like, yeah, it wasn't fat. It was like just bad body, good sinker. Like he definitely wasn't in the fat category, but like yeah, you should see, like I'm trying to find it on the wall. Like it's not a great picture, but like you can definitely tell like the face is just like he looks better at whatever I don't know how old are you now, 28?
Yeah, 28.
He looks better as a 28-year-old than he did an 18-year-old body wise.
Well, and when it comes to recruiting, like sometimes you're looking for those guys that you can trim up and like, hey, if I just get this guy in my weight program, if he buys in, if he's serious, like who knows what this guy could turn into. So
Well, and that's like one of the questions we asked during the recruiting process is like, you love it? And, 99% of them are going to say, yeah, right? Like that's the answer we're expecting. And then the other question is, do you work hard? Because some of those guys, like when I had this conversation with a kid the other day, and it's not that he wasn't working hard. We're trying to get him to gain some weight, and he's kind of leveled out a little bit. And it's not necessarily that we could like throw it back in their face, but it's more of like, you told me a year ago that you work hard, and this is part of the process, even though it's not baseball related. You weigh 160 pounds, and you can't throw 88 to 89 miles an hour at 160 pounds. Your body won't allow it. You're gonna get re-injured if you don't start gaining weight. And I brought that conversation up again. Is you said you work hard, and I believe you, but like there's more to it than just like working hard at the baseball field. And that was the big thing. Going back to Pete, was just like the body transformation. He threw harder. He was able to recover quicker. Got more flexible, all that stuff that goes into pitching that like you don't see as a pitcher, right? It's not just all about velocity.
Yeah, Coach. So we talked a lot about your season last year, but with this upcoming season here in 2026, what are you guys most excited about?
Yeah, it's going to be a completely different new team. We were able to hit a lot of extra base hits last year, specifically home runs. I mean, I think we had 90 in 55 games.
what's up with that, by the way? Was that I don't mean to cut in here on the question, but you guys hit a ton of home runs. Was there a philosophy? Was it a weight room? Was it the guys you recruited?
Yeah, I mean, it was like it was a little bit of everything, would be the easy answer. I mean, two guys hit, almost 40 homers, I think. A little bit of Cosin and George, but, Chris McDevitt was this. Yeah. But, McDevitt hit double digits. Chris McDevitt from St. Rita, Cole Nelson, he was a transfer in. He was one of the St. Charles. I can't remember if it was East or North. He hit double digit homers. I believe Kane Hedrick from Providence got there too. So, we had a couple double digit home run guys. Bat speed, like that's part of the recruiting process from the position players. Is like we're looking for guys with some bat speed who don't strike out, who don't swing and miss. So anyway, getting back to the question though, like it's gonna be a little bit of a different team. Like we're not just for most of the game, it was just like, all right, like I'm just staying out of the way. Like I'm not gonna try to overcoach. We're not gonna like turn into the small ball team and like watch me be smarter than everyone else and steal these bases. Like, we didn't even steal a base a game last year. It was just kind of roll the balls out and like, let's just hit, let's take walks, let's not strike out, and let's get the ball in the gap and let's get the ball in the air and go. This year's not going to be that way. This year we are going to probably have to, do some full court press with some bunts, some steals, and we've been working hard on that. And I think the guys have taken to it. It was pretty successful during fall ball, which is kind of the full court press motto of, hey, we're going to get on, we're going to force some action, we're going to do some hit and runs. And I made the joke the other day, like we were talking about things we got to do a little bit differently from coaches. And Cosin's like, we got to do some hit and run rounds. And I'm like, yeah, we do. Because we didn't call one hit and run last year. Not one. And that will not be the case this year for sure. Like did a couple sack bunts and that was pretty much it. But there's going to be more bunt for hits and things like that. So, and that it's kind of crazy because that's kind of the player like I was kind of that small ball, like we got to manufacture runs, we got to steal some bases. And I haven't really coached a team like that before. It's just kind of been like, hey, let's swing. Let's recruit some really good hitters with some good bat speed, and let's get the ball in the air, and let's focus on hitting the ball in the air and go.
Coach, I'm going to hop in here. Talked about how you're excited about the class that you have in right now, the guys that are freshmen, the class that's now going to come in, the 2026 class. Kind of talk about what separates some of the young guys to get on the field early in your program. I feel like a lot of times anymore in recruiting with like our parents and players that come to showcases, right, everybody is so hyper fixated on, okay, I want to get on the field like day one. And that's not always the case. I think it's a lot harder than people realize because, yeah, you may be the guy at, say, Marist your senior year, but when you go to a good program like Lewis, right, everybody's good. And everybody was probably the guy at their high school. So what kind of separates young guys in your program to get on the field early?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. Each case is a little bit different, but I would say the main trait is like guys who just handle their business like winners end up getting on the field. Okay. And it's not just on the field. Like we're kind of having this conversation with some guys right now in the program is like, if you're lazy off the field in a few areas of your life, like there's going to be lazy habits on the field. Okay. So like we really, really preach, like we want guys who just get stuff done. Go getters, get stuff done, knock stuff off the list of things to do today. That's the most common trait is like he's just the work ethic and he's just a guy who gets stuff done. That's like the main answer to that. When you talk like on the field metrics, it's really just how quickly can these guys adjust to college baseball, the speed of the game and more so like the volume of baseball that's being played. We talked to some of our freshmen at the end of the fall and it's like, a handful of them said, this is the most baseball I've ever played in my life, and it's, 5 days a week with lifting mixed in. And there's some days where you do individual. So, and it's only going to get more because the NCAA allows us to go to 6 days once we get back from Christmas break. So, and we haven't even traveled yet. So this is going to be the most baseball they played, in a short amount of time. So watching them get better every day, and another big thing is like, and that's what made last year's team so special is just like they brought it every single day. But they were a lot of older guys kind of setting the example for the younger guys. Like you don't get to pick and choose in this game when you want to play hard and when you want to work hard. Like that's a requirement. That's a standard in the program that, if you want to get on the field, like you got to bring it every day because there's no easy wins. There's no easy at bats. There's no easy innings. Like every inning is a grind. And the guys that bring it every day, work ethic wise, are the guys that are going to rise above the rest. And those are the guys that are going to get on the field, and those are the guys that are going to stay on the field. Because as coaches and as myself, like we just want consistency. Like I don't want to ride the wave of like, oh, we're good one weekend, we're bad the next weekend because we just ride the wave and we don't know what we're getting as coaches. Like the consistency aspect of it, that's what we want. That's what we look for. Everyone can have a good game. Everyone can have a good weekend, but like, can you do it over and over and over again? And that's how you end up winning, championships and winning 30 plus games and, winning, individual awards. It's like, they don't just do it for one weekend. They do it over the course of an entire season.
Are there any guys that, embody exactly what you're talking about that you've coached in your years? It could be even more of like an unsung guy. Any fan favorites as a coach? You got George Balecki. He clearly put in the work. If you say now he's weighing 220 pounds, like he was getting after it. Like, are there any shout outs you want to give in that regard?
Well, people are going to get mad at me, like if I forget them, get them. So, no, but like there's a kid who didn't play a ton, Jake Heisman, played with Pete, like just the work ethic. Him and AJ Casimir are two of them. AJ was a Lyle guy. Jake was one of the Glenbard guys. Neither of them played a ton, but like the work ethic was through the roof. Great relationship, got stuff done on and off the field. Those are two guys that kind of stick out. Anthony Rios, St. Lawrence guy. I still think he helps out at St. Lawrence. Like, great one. Jackson Dvorak, he was at Lewis, grad transfer. but you'd act like he'd been at Lewis for like 10 years, like just like totally invested in totally invested in the program. Those guys, Anthony Cavalieri from Fenwick and Michael O'Brien from JCA. Those are some guys that really stick out in that regard. But the list goes on and on. We have so many great kids in the program, and credit to the assistant coaches. I've been fortunate enough to have quite a lot of good ones, and help bringing in some of these guys has been awesome.
So Mike, as the game of baseball changes, right? How has the conference itself changed? Because I know, the teams are different now. Back when I played, how's like the talent now, and how good is Division II baseball really? Because I know the answer to this question. So I'm almost trying to sell that baseball is good everywhere, but just from what you've seen, because you've been in this conference for a long time, even going back to Quincy, how has it changed?
Yeah, there's way more velocity now. Our guys joke to me, make some jokes that oh, when you played, what were they throwing? Everyone was throwing 70, but it's just I graduated in 2011. It wasn't like I was playing in 1980, but the velocity is the one thing that sticks out. Everyone's just running out 86 plus for the most part. There's always a couple outliers in there. But the velocity has been the biggest thing that has stuck out the most part. And then obviously the home runs, just because these kids are bigger and stronger than ever. It's almost like the parks, we need to redo the parks because they're college parks, but we need to go push the fences back a little bit. Especially if the wind's blowing out, some of these games are just you better get swings and misses or you're probably going to end up losing. But velocity has been the big thing that you see. It's just we ask guys all the time, is this what you expected? Is it a little bit better, a little bit worse than what you give us some feedback, especially the freshmen, and all of them say it's better than we thought, coming in. And it's crazy. Last year, just as an example, right? Because last year's in the past, and it's on paper, it's facts. Our average age last year was 21 years old. Our average age of our starting lineup was 21, 22 years old. So guys are bigger, stronger, faster, and here you are walking in as a freshman, and you're 5'9", 160 pounds. Physically, you just can't compete with these guys. Their jam shot's going to get over their shortstop's head. Your jam shot's going to get caught by the shortstop. They're going to recover a little bit quicker because they're bigger, stronger, faster. Things like that. But yeah, it's changed so much. Even since you graduated, in 19, Pete, it's different. It's as in 23. I said this to a couple people. 2023 was probably the best year I've ever seen talent wise. Our conference had 9 All-Americans on it, the entire conference. That's we had the most in the country. That number is crazy to me that there was 9 All-Americans in our conference. And last year was probably the second best I've ever seen, just from an overall talent standpoint. There was a team that didn't make the conference tournament that gave us half of our losses. And I thought they were really good. I thought they were one of the best teams we saw all year. Rockers down in Kansas City. They ran out 4 really good arms. They swung it really good, and they didn't even make the conference tournament. And it's not a knock on them. They ended up having a winning record. It's just we were 9-10 deep last year in the league. And that's been the biggest thing is the overall depth of teams have just gotten so much better. And you get that when you add some teams, and definitely add some quality teams as well.
I was gonna piggyback to the recruiting side of things. You guys have done great stuff on the high school wise, but how are you guys attacking the portal and the JUCO route, and how is Division II with the roster constraints along the NCAA? How is that impacting you guys in terms of recruiting?
Yeah, it's impacting us. It's impacting everyone. I think when the Division I put the 34-man roster limit starting this year, I think every team in the country got a little bit better, just because there's not as many spots available, and Look, when like Pete was going through the process, and I guess that would have been in the summer of 2014, as crazy as it is to say that. Like we would always go get our high school guys, and then we'd save some money for maybe one JUCO guy or maybe one transfer that would pop up. Nowadays, it's completely different. Like you're saving probably more than half of the money for the portal, seeing what opens up. Now, in saying that though, like if you're gonna go get a high school guy, like you don't want to say no to a good high school guy either. But we're way more careful on how we spend the money, and there's some tough conversations that we've had. There's a lot of high school kids that we like that it's like, I really like you. I think you're good enough to play at this level. I think you might even be good enough to play as a freshman. But we got to prioritize, the portal more so than JUCO, just specifically for Lewis. I know some other programs feel differently, but like we're more portal than JUCO, and I would say we're probably more high school than JUCO. That's just a preference thing on my end, not to knock junior college ball or anything like that. It's just we've had more luck with kids coming from 4 years than 2 years, and I think some of that's just the culture shock of there's rules in place, there's time, there's hours limits, things like that. So that's just a preference thing. So for us, it's pretty much just like you're either coming from a 4-year or, you're coming from high school. Now, obviously, there's a few outliers in there, but that's kind of the big thing for me.
Coach, I got one last question here myself, but just when evaluating a pitcher, what are some of like the most important traits you guys are looking for, like velo, off speed, just ability to throw strikes, things like that? Like what do you guys look for?
It's either strikes or stuff. Those are the two things we boil down to. Like we have a pretty big staff this year, but like we told everyone, like you guys are here for a reason. Either you got the stuff / velocity or you throw strikes, and we're trying to develop the opposite one. But we think like when we're going through the process and he throws hard, he doesn't throw strikes. Okay. Then the question we ask ourselves is he doesn't throw strikes or he can't throw strikes, because there's a huge difference there. Okay. And we obviously want to try to get the guys or recruit the guys who they don't throw strikes right now, but why don't they throw strikes? And is it fixable, as opposed to the guys who can't throw strikes and maybe will never throw strikes at a high enough level that we want them to. So those are the two things. And then, velocity is important. I'm not going to downplay velocity, but like, it's not the end all be all for me. Like everyone's throwing hard right now, and it's proven that you could train velocity. So you gotta have, like, not all 89 mile an hour fastballs are created equally, right? There's different sink, arm slot. So you got to have some sort of secondary pitch, and you got to be able to land it. We've had guys throw hard here, be successful. We've had guys here throw hard and, take it in the chin a little bit. So it's different. I mean, a lot of it's just the eye test and doing things, watching this level of play and seeing like, okay, yeah, I can see this kid in a year or two. And like, there's a great example, like Jackson Kottmeyer, Canelan High School, sophomore this year. He threw the hardest pitch of the fall. I mean, I think it was 95-1. Okay. And we liked him, went out to go see him one time and in a summer game, and he was 80. He was throwing 80. Now, he threw harder than that. There was just maybe a week where his prep wasn't as good as it should have been. But like, just because they don't throw hard doesn't mean it's not a good arm. Okay. And like, I remember asking him, like, do you work hard? Yes. Okay. Because if you work hard, there's no reason that you shouldn't be a 90 mile an hour guy. And he's overworked, I don't know, overwork or probably not the right word, but like, he's worked so hard that he's up to 95. He pitches comfortably in the 91, 92 range, but 95-1 that'll catch some eyes from some pro guys for sure, especially with the body that he is. He's 6'4". But that's a great example of it. Is like he threw strikes. We love the body. Tall and skinny is kind of our type, or tall and big face. Like Pete. But yeah, there's always outliers. Some of it's the eye test. It's not to say like if you're not 6 foot, we're not going to recruit you, but there's got to be some variable there that we really like, or there's got to be an outlier factor of a certain pitch that we fall in love with, or something like that. But tall, skinny strike throwers. If you're tall, skinny, and throw strikes, like, come on down. I'll take you. And Darren Law, right? He's coming in. He fits that mold. Matisse is definitely in that category. I'm just making sure I'm not forgetting anyone. Lance Cuddy from Coal City, who just committed. Left side. Kind of see that as well, and Coyce as well. All those guys kind of fit that mold, and I'm just looking at the freshmen we got right now. Nolan Hooper, huge jump this fall. Yorkville Christian, he fits that mold exactly. The stuff is there. Lucas Acevedo obviously checks a lot of those boxes as well. And then Jacob Bowd, who ended last year with an injury from the left side. Tall and skinny, quick arm, strike thrower. Rowan Smythe and Pablo Herrera, both other two guys. Smythe from the left side from Evergreen, and Herrera a little bit bigger body, but strike thrower. Statistically, Herrera was probably our best freshman this fall, but strike thrower can land breaking balls. But yeah, that's to kind of answer the question. Tall, skinny, and strike throwers are what we like over here.
Well, Mike, I think we can wrap this up here. I can't thank you enough for wanting to get on this, and I'll definitely be following you guys this spring. So good luck the rest of the way. I know you guys got some grind time coming up here with the winter.
Do you before we end? Do you want to tell everyone the freshman year first run the mile story, or no? When you ran the mile as a freshman?
Well, like the one like on campus. Well, yeah, I like passed out, but like I remember I called you. I was prepping for it, just around my block, and I called you like 0.2 miles in. And I was just like, I can't do it. I just can't.
Freshman year, the first week of school, like we're just like, hey, we're just gonna get together, run the mile, train for it. We're gonna give you a time, but like there's not gonna be like a punishment if you don't do it. And so we gave Pete a time, and like, kid calls me and he's like, I can't do this. I'm like, no, that's not. You haven't been on campus yet. You're not gonna tell me what you can't do. So he ends up finishing the mile, like to his credit, but then like he like passes, like falls over, passes out, like he's laying in dirt, like this side of his face is entirely covered in dirt, and he like can't catch his breath. And like our head coach at the time like had to get home to his kids because like we ran it at night when the sun set, and like so I'm with Pete, so his dad comes and picks him up at like 8:30 p.m. on campus because he can't drive home apparently because he's still passed out. So that was a great welcome to college moment there.
I mean, to be fair, I do have sport-induced asthma, so that might have had something to do with it. But
Pete, I have a similar story coming off a winter break where we had conditioning on our first week back on campus, and I spent, maybe the first 10 minutes working the conditioning with the team, and then the rest of the conditioning I was in the training room. So I can't blame you. We've all, well, at least some of us have been there before. But yeah, that's a harsh welcome to college moment there, Pete.
Yeah, welcome to college. That was the first thing I think we ever did as a team. Like that was just, the NCAA allowed, you can't start till a certain date, the first week of school. And like, that was the first thing we did. And that was the first impression. And it was like, he certainly changed the impression after that. But I'm like, Jesus, man, did I make a mistake recruiting this kid? This kid couldn't even run a mile.
You didn't recruit me to run the mile. You recruited me to pitch. So what can I say?
You're right. I did. You're right. So, but no, it was a good, like, telling that story now is just you laugh at it, and it's just one of those memories, right? That college, like the best thing about college baseball is just like those memories that you can tell your friends, or like you're never going to forget that story. And we'll tell that story once a year, or I'll make fun of him, or he'll make fun of me for making him run a mile, even though he's a pitcher. Like, oh yeah, pitchers run the mile all the time. That makes me better, right? Just like little things like that. Like those are the stuff that like you just cherish as coaches, and I'm sure he enjoys telling that story, and it's just like those are the things you love most about coaching.
Yeah, totally. But no, thanks, Mike. This has been a lot of fun, and good luck the rest of the way, man. I'll be following for sure.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Again, thanks for all you guys do. You make my job a little bit easier just with the showcases and recruiting and everything. It's always sign up my yearly subscription for PBR. I can't wait to pay it every year.
That's what we like to hear. No, thanks, Coach. Good luck to you.
Yeah. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you.